Hi, I'm Lewis, and I'm going to be talking about the God syndrome amongst certain countries and nations with regard to their governments and to their presidents. What does that mean? It means that there are countries in the world where everybody believes that their president or their government is God. Now, they don't quite say it or articulate it like that and say, I think that my president is God, or I think the government is God, but they manifest it in their behavior. There are countries in the world where every problem, everything that happens has to involve the government or be blamed on or be referenced to the government. These are countries like Malawi. These are countries like South Africa on some certain level. These are countries like Burundi. These are countries like Argentina, Brazil, and these countries have a disease. That disease is that people believe that the government or the president should solve all their problems. They believe that the role of their president and the role of their government is to do everything they want to be done. So for instance, if they are sitting on a farm that is fertile, but they need the soil of their farm to be tilled and fertilized and irrigated, and they need planning about what crops to grow, when and how, all that stuff should not be done by them, but it should be done by their government. That is how they think. They believe that it is the role of their government or their president to solve every single problem that they have. I think there are even some people who believe that their president should cook them lunch, take them to work, wash them while they're in the shower, and polish their shoes, because their government and the president are God. They do everything. If you happen to be in one of those countries, you need to avoid this disease. If you find yourself surrounded by people who keep on saying the government, the government, the government, or the president, the president, the president, the president, you need to ask yourself, is the president God? Is the government God? And what can I do to change the situation I'm in? What can I do to make a difference to my world and to my life? If you find yourself in South Africa, for instance, in the middle of some squatter camp, you can ask yourself that question. 10 years or 20 years we've been having all these service delivery riots and whatnot. What have they achieved? Nothing but rubber bullets and tear gas and getting chased around this neighborhood and that neighborhood. Yes, there's some improvement and there isn't some. Frankly speaking, the government doesn't have infinite resources. Sometimes resources don't go far enough to help everybody. And rather than sitting there for 10 years waiting for the government to come save you, you could have said to yourself, you know what, I know that the government should be doing something to help, and when they can, they will. But in the meantime, just in case they don't get to me this year, the next year, the year after that, maybe it'll take 10 years, maybe it'll take 15 years, you don't know. But just in case that happens to my situation, I'm going to do something today. I'm going to take an action this minute that's going to ensure that I become employed. I'm going to take an action that means I'm going to have a house and a roof over my head. If it means I've got to move from where I am now living to somewhere far away to find employment, that is what I am going to do, because I am not going to sit here and die or wait for things to change because there's something called a government or a president that's going to solve my problem. This thing can also go further into countries where the government is nearly non-existent. For instance, places like the DRC or Somalia. If people were to self-organize themselves, become self-organizing organisms such as, similar to what ants would do to create an anthill, if you were to get together as a collective and say, not only are we going to form a village, we're going to form a science council. We're going to form a farming council that's going to get together and discuss better ways to farm, new techniques, new technologies. We're even going to create our own research and development component. As a village, you're going to innovate as best as you can. If the government comes into some point in time and interacts with you, engages you, and helps you move forward, perfect. But you're not going to sit there and depend on the government. As a community, as people, you need to sit down and say to yourselves, we are the source of improvement. We are the source of development. We are the source of our wealth. We are the source of our power. We are the source of our knowledge. And we do not depend on our president or on our government to give us the opportunity or to give us the ability, because God already gave us those abilities and we're going to use them. Now, that does not mean that you are a terrorist or a seditionist, that you don't believe in the government or on the president. You do. You probably even voted for the president. You love the government and you think it's a good thing. But what I'm saying is, do not let the government become your end-all excuse as to why there's no clinic in your village. The government didn't build one. The question becomes, there are 3,000 people in your village. There are 10,000 people in your town. Why could you not go to each one of these people as a group and say, we want to build a clinic for ourselves so that we're healthier, live longer, and that our people generally are having a happier life? To do that, we require, let's say, $1 million or whatever currency you have in your community, or whatever currency people use in your region. So you go to these people and say, hey guys, we need to get $1 million together to build a clinic. We don't care what the government thinks. We don't care what the president thinks, because we're doing this because this is what our community requires, and we're the ones who live in it, and we cannot depend on external forces to improve our lives because they may never do so. But we know we're concerned about ourselves, and we're concerned about our community, and we're concerned about our children, and we're concerned about our lives, and therefore we are going to take an action today. It doesn't help you to join a protest that says, well, these foreigners are taking all our jobs. What were you doing while that foreigner was taking your job? Were you sitting at home doing nothing? Then maybe that's the problem. You should have been out there making sure that that foreigner couldn't take your job, because you were active. You were tackling the opportunities around you, so that when the foreigner arrived or the person from wherever came by, they would have seen that, hey, competition is tough. Maybe this space is not going to be the best place for me to set up my spaza shop. Or maybe, in fact, I should be working for that guy, because you know what? He's got a business. So think about it. It may be not what you want to hear. Sometimes people want to hear, oh, we're coming to save you, we're coming to get you. But there are going to be times in life, in the universe, whether it's through political chaos, war, natural disaster, or plain and simply a limited budget resources, or the fact that maybe government has done as much as it can for you, and the real reason you're not moving in anymore forward into the future is because you are unwilling to do what it takes to get to the next level. This is especially pertinent for people in ghettos, in countries like the United States, in places like the United Kingdom, in France. Do not depend on a government, because it is a known fact in a lot of these places that the government is not really interested in uplifting people in certain parts of New Orleans, or in certain parts of New York City, or in certain parts of France, or Paris, or in certain parts of London. You have to uplift yourself and create an economic program amongst yourselves. X a ministry, X a government, X a president. They are not God. You are God's apostle on earth. You are God's extension of creation. You should be manifesting destiny in your life and the world around you and in the universe beyond. You are the power that's going to change the world, and you need to embrace it. Let no man lie to you that, hey, sit right here and the government will come and feed you. You need to feed yourself. You need to go out there and do what you have to do. I'm not saying commit crimes. I'm not saying be immoral. I'm not saying do things that damage and destroy and kill. What I'm saying is be a go-getter, take advantage of opportunity, and take responsibility for your own life. And if the government helps you do that, amazing. And if the president is doing things that are allowing you to do that better, amazing. That's what you want to see from a president, from a government. And there are governments like that, and you might live in a country that does that. But for those people who might not, or if you need to complete the journey and the government can only take you so far, it is time you took action for yourself. You are the change. Go forth, create wealth, create prosperity, create knowledge, be the wise, be the knowledgeable, be the great. It's up to you. Nobody else is coming to save you. You got to save yourself.